Hi guys, welcome to Sim Captain. Going to bring you a comprehensive review video of the CLS-E force feedback yoke by Brunner Electronics, I guess is how you pronounce it. I may be butchering the name. Brunner. I see Brunner. As you can see, I do have a dual setup for the pilot and co-pilot side. So I'd like to begin by doing a little tour of the yoke first. I do not have it powered up yet. The screen lights up when it's powered, and each yoke requires an outlet. But I want to show you the yoke and the buttons that it has. On each side you will find 3 of these red push buttons and 2 rocker switches on each side. To activate the yokes, I open up the CLS to Sim software. This program is what runs the yoke and enables you to make changes. Connected. So when I've opened the CLS to Sim software, you will see the 2 yokes initialize. And during the initialization, the yokes go from stop to stop, full, forward and aft. And when you have the green light that they're connected to Flight Sim, you will see the 2 yokes are slaved together so that what one yoke does, the other does. And the main display of the yoke contains an initial page which shows you the aircraft's information, the time in the upper right corner, the speed, the altitude, the vertical speed is at the bottom, and then your 3 buttons and their functions. You can turn the display on and off, the light. You can hit the info page, which will give you the yoke's parameters, and it will show you if you're pressing a button, which button's being pressed. And you have a stopwatch, which is self-explanatory. It's a stopwatch. And as for the buttons, I've programmed this one to be my push to talk. This is my autopilot disconnect, flight director on off, nose trim up and down, view change, autopilot engaged, autopilot disconnect, and also trim nose up and down. You can program these buttons to be whatever you'd like. The CLS to Sim software will give you a drop-down menu of some basic options they offer, but if you don't like that, you can unbind a switch from the CLS to Sim software and then reprogram it using Flight Simulator's menu to be whatever you'd like. And also you could use a third-party software like FSUIPC, which I use to connect this button to be my push to talk. I made a video on how I did that, and I will link that in the description below. And to give you a quick look at the box or the module that runs the yoke, it's a little bit large, a little larger than a shoebox. There's the one on the other side. And these 2 yokes each connect, they each need a power outlet, and they are connected to each other with a Ethernet cable, and then connected to the computer with a USB. Alright, well, I've been talking a little bit, and that gets a tad boring, so let's get to the airborne portion of our video. Got the airplanes all set up, lights and strobes are on, brakes are released, gear selector's down, flaps are set the trim, and we'll start going. Now, these yokes will simulate all the forces imposed on the aircraft. As I start moving, I feel them lightening up as the airflow starts to travel over the control surfaces. and the weight is kind of lifted. And then as I get to rotation, and I lift off, and you feel the pulling away from the ground. I mean, it's hard to explain it, you know, it doesn't translate well because I'm not good at verbalizing what I'm feeling. But, I mean, you feel the control surfaces, you feel the wind, you feel the speed of which you're flying, because as you get slower, bigger inputs are required. You feel the turbulence, you can feel the engine vibration, you can feel the ground vibration, but I turned that off because I found it annoying. I'm going to climb up to 7,000, yaw damp on, and you feel everything you want it to feel. When you fly the big aircraft, you feel the hydraulic feeling of the yoke. When you are flying the lighter aircraft, they actually surprisingly feel heavier because they don't have that same hydraulic assistance. And we're going to make a right turn. We're going to do a pattern here. I'll do a stall demonstration so you can see the buffeting of the yoke during the stall. And then I want to shoot an ILS approach and show you one little nuance I've noticed of the yoke. I don't know if that's a setting or a flight sim thing, but it does this one interesting kind of behavior on the ILS. Well, it's not that interesting, but I'll show you in a moment. Really important is the feeling of the wind, you know, because the only cue in flight sim, and I mentioned this in the previous video I made about these yokes, is the only cue flight sim gives you of what the wind is doing are the wind socks at the airport. Otherwise, there's nothing else. So this yoke adds the cue of feeling the direction and power of which the wind is blowing. And that is pretty important in flight sim. I have to say, I absolutely love these yokes. The company has been fantastic. They give me customer support when I've needed it. They truly back their product. And I really look forward to getting my hands on some of those force feedback rudder pedals. So really, this video, if I really go into everything this yoke can do, this will go on and on and on. So I just want to show some of the main features. You know, it's one of those, until you feel it for yourself, you don't know how enhancing it is. I went a little overboard buying 2 of them, but as you can see my setup, it really kind of needed it. It really added to the experience of it. So I dropped the power and I'm trying to put us into this stall. I'm actually going to put the flaps up. I want to do a clean stall here. And I'm going to disengage the autopilot. Oop, we got a big pitch up, and that was because the trim is way out. But as I go into this stall, there we go. You see the yokes really shuddering. Alright, we're going to pull out of this stall, pitch the nose down, apply power, get that airspeed back, level off. Alright, and I'll re-engage the autopilot. We need to go back to the east. And I'm going to quickly change the weather and make it a little rougher. Okay, now if the screens are still washed out, it's actually not. Well, maybe it is, but it's also low visibility, so there's not much to see. I need to pull up the ILS real quick for this airport. Alright, the ILS is 267 on the heading, and the frequency is 110.1. So when you fly with this yoke, there are so many features. You can make profiles for each individual airplane you fly. I've made kind of more one generic profile for which I I use for all planes, but it kind of automatically changes for you because if the plane has hydraulics, you're going to feel the hydraulics. If it doesn't, you're not going to feel it. In the airliner, you feel the stick shaker. You know, the GA airplane, when you stall, you get that good buffeting, which is realistic. You know, but basically the speed at which you fly will change the forces. The wind will impact it. As I said, you can add all the features you want, the ground vibrations, the engine vibrations. There's really a lot of ways you can create this yoke, and honestly, I probably haven't even explored it all myself because there's a whole bunch of categories that I don't understand what they do, so I haven't touched them. You do have to have the software open and running to access the profiles. I realized if you don't have the software up, I mean like running, you can't just open the profile manager. So I'm going to make a turn here and I want to enter this ILS for runway 27, and I'm going to put the approach mode on because the localizer is alive and the glide slope is alive. Now what I want to show you, you know, this isn't quite as turbulent as I want it to be because I want the yoke to be moving around, but when the localizer captures, everything's normal. But when the localizer and the glide slope have captured, the yoke stops moving with the autopilot. Like right now, if I overpower the yoke, it'll disengage the autopilot. See? I'm going to put the approach mode back on. Now the localizer has captured, the airplane is turning. We're about to cross the glide slope, and then what will happen is the yoke will just kind of slump to the right and stay where it is, which has happened. We've captured the localizer, and now the yoke won't really move around at all while I fly the ILS. You know, I don't know why it does that, why it like stops moving. I think it has to do with flight sim, not the yoke, but that does happen. But if I was just captured on the localizer, you see the yoke jumped, but the yoke will move and follow the localizer. Put the wheels down. We can put 10 degrees out. Sorry, that's 20 degrees in the King Air, the first notch. I need to just get below that glide slope. You see the yoke is moving again, even though it's not big changes, but it's moving. But when I put the approach mode on, the yoke will just stop. And you see the yoke kind of slumps to the right, and it's not going to move anymore. Put the flaps out. Alright, gears down, 3 green lights, full flaps. And, well, since the yoke wouldn't be entertaining, we'll go hand flying. Oh, I'm sorry. You gotta fix the trim before you turn off the autopilot. And that's why I get that pitch up. Yaw damps away, gears down, lights are green, flaps are down. We're clear to land. Alright, touchdown, and we're in reverse. And there's 90 knots. Alright, well, as I clear the runway here, that'll kind of wrap up my review of the CLS-E force feedback yoke. If there's anything specific you'd like to know about it, please ask in the comment section, and I will try and address your questions. But I have to say, it is my #1 favorite yoke. I love the product. I really, really like the company. I am extraordinarily happy with this yoke. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, happy landings.